Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's panel. Today, we have a very exciting topic reducing CI/CD complexity with emerging technologies like LLMs, AI agents, and A2A, which everybody is talking about in the community. Today, we have a bunch of panelists. We have our CD ambassadors here. I would like them to introduce themselves. We'll start with Edward. You can start to introduce yourself.
Hello, Garima. My name is Eduardo, and I work in Corber as a senior platform engineer. And my background is mainly on the DevOps world, and I'm quite excited to talk about with this new topic. So, and I pass to the introduction to Mihir.
Hey, thanks, Eduardo. So my name is Mihir Vora. I'm a senior distinguished engineer at Capital One, and I primarily focus on developer experience at Capital One. I have been with Capital One for several years, and I've seen the transformation that we've gone through. And I'm really excited to be part of this panel with this group of experts here. I'll pass it off to Afzal.
Hi everyone. So my name is Abdul Ansari. I'm a backend engineer, also customer engineer in my organization. So I work for Equity. It's been maybe a couple of months now, and my main focus here is to provide support to customers facing issues, as well as providing feedback with their customer uh, yeah, like some kind of intelligence science kind of thing. So I'm very much excited about this panel discussion. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll pass over to Muktesh.
Thanks, Afsar. Hey everyone, my name is Muktesh. I work as a lead AI engineer currently for Adobe, especially focused on developer platforms. Most of my career has been in developer experience and developer platforms, so super passionate about that topic. And currently working on a couple of projects where we are trying to enable the AI engineer builder persona. Like how do we enable AI engineers to build AI native applications? Excited to be a part of this panel, and yeah, looking forward to the discussion. Yeah, and I think we are done. Let's
Thank
get
you,
started.
everyone. And I'm Garima Bajpai. I'm based out of in Ottawa, Canada. I'm the chair for the ambassador program at CD Foundation. And let's quickly jump into this interesting topic. The purpose of this panel is to demystify the integration of emerging technology and how in emerging technologies like LLM models, AI agents, and now A2A protocol and automation around all these emerging technologies will redefine how CI/CD pipelines are designed or optimized or managed. Will it create another level of complexity, or it will release some pressure from the practitioners and reduce the complexity and the cognitive load on the practitioners? Let's uncover that specific challenge and demystify what, as practitioners, as community leaders, we are going to do with this integration and what is happening around us. So let's start this discussion with the basics and the fundamentals. Like, what do you see, like Muktesh, and coming back to then here, that what are the most significant challenges that AI agents and LLMs are already solving for you in your CI/CD pipelines? If you have experience with your customers or organizations, what is one piece of advice you would like to give to your viewers?
So I'd like to start with identifying the workflows and repetitive tasks. So first of all, in terms of a delivery pipeline or CI/CD pipeline, there are multiple stages and there are multiple set of steps it goes through. So identifying where we can simplify, that's critical and crucial. And once you identify, then you can start thinking about how to bring AI to solve that, right? For example, in our case, like we have a lot of platforms, right? So scaling support for the platform is a tedious task. And in that sense, we all know like whosoever has managed the platform before, like if there is an issue in the platform, that's the first place users go to, like in order to point an issue or start debugging or if anything comes up. So scaling support for the platform is a tedious task, provided we have limited uh, human capital or manpower to support. So that was the very first use case we have encountered. Like we have augmented all the platform knowledge in terms of a bot and replaced the L1 support to AI, right? So that has offloaded a lot of capacity from the human capital to the AI. Uh, and then recently what we have done also is we have this delivery pipeline or CI/CD pipeline. We have started incorporating the AI into different phases. For example, if a build fails, AI automatically detects that and it starts providing the suggestion, like what could be the potential reasons for the failure and potential solutions. And in some cases, we have also started remediating those steps. So I think the answer lies in like what steps your pipeline has, what you can automate, and then where AI can assist you in terms of saving time, increasing productivity, and solving issues faster. So yeah, that's what. Meher, anything to add?
Yeah, so I think you touch upon a very interesting and kind of important points there. I'm just going to put a little bit of lens from a regulated industry standpoint, like finance or healthcare or government. Like there's an additional layer of like some sort of a regulation on top of how you can embed this. Some of that perspective comes from the standpoint of like policy aware pipelines. I think this has been one topic where you generally have more hard coding as such. That's where agents can kind of self-evolve based on the data and the compliance requirements as they evolve, and they can start providing more insights into the pipeline to the developers. And then you can obviously have the scale of like you do something that's low, medium, high, and then you start enforcing those, and then start blocking them when they try to kind of get to critical point, right? So some of that. The other thing that I've observed broadly in the industry is, especially with build logs, right? Like because they are now getting huge. Like there's tons of things that we're doing as pipelines, and then there could be a lot of steps that are happening in parallel. So it's very hard for a human to kind of follow along each of these steps and where exactly the breakdown is. So I think log and metric summarization is something that I've seen AI being used very effectively. Again, it depends on the quality of the model that you have and other factors, but that's one area that I've seen a lot of traction that we've gained with. The other one is sort of incident retrospectives. So generally during the incident calls, you have like, a lot of people on the call. There's a lot of transcription that happens, but a lot of details are lost when someone's taking notes or someone's trying to kind of create a post-mortem or a summary of what that incident was and how. I feel like, there's a lot of potential there for AI agents and LLMs to kind of take that responsibility to provide correlating factors to an incident and just get all the inputs and summarize it in a way that's very easy to digest for like leaders as such, right? Because they are not very close to the ground level reality of what was happening, but they should be able to see how we can drive actions towards that incident. So just a few thoughts, and then obviously the chat ops, conversational DevX, that's been kind of key where we've seen a lot of traction as well, where making it easier for developers to set up their pipelines. Like in the declarative pipeline world, parsing through significant amount of documentation just to get the config right becomes a bit of a challenge. So very pinpointed instructions can help them kind of overcome some of those challenges. So yeah, these are the places where I've seen it to be most functional and like elevate the experience of developers.
Excellent, Mihir, and I'll go back to Afzal because you mentioned a very important point and which is coherent to what Afzal is doing at his day job. Um, incident response, for example, how AI agents and these kind of technologies are facilitating and improvising the response time, and to a certain extent, the job of a SRE is kind of also getting, there is a reduced cognitive load on the SREs at this point in time through the injection of emerging technology. So, Afzal, if you can also highlight from your perspective and experience what's happening at the customer experience end.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that. So I think organizations like we have developed and like equity, I'd say no intelligence, which mainly focus to help customers focus on development rather than spending valuable time fixing continual delivery pipelines issues and tracking down failures manually. So when it comes to like incident analysis, we really offer customers providing them with like run books. So it's kind of thing which is like they write their own queries on top of that. For example, there is a application degradation in their production, and they want to do that using intelligence. So we do what, like we have created a runbook that the customer can write a job on that and like provide their queries. For example, if that application is out of sync, sync it for me. So this will allow the intelligence to understand, and it will keep on detecting the like application health. So if there is some point degradation in the application because of sync failure or something like that, so with the help of incident failure, it will alert the incident, and customer can go to the dashboard, click on that, and acknowledge it. And once click on that, I mean, hit the button on the resolution, it will resolve for you. So without any manual task, this is something can make suffice to you. And apart from that, like we have also built an MCP server uh, that is like we recently open source it, and yeah, customer are very much happy with that. Like just they had to use plus MCP client, a VS Code, something like that, and using that they can deploy the application with like without much worry about SRE things, as you mentioned. And there is another example of cluster mismatch configuration issues. They really face when they are like use a lot of multi-tenant cluster, and at some point they get like killed, for example, out of memory, and they are really frustrated, get frustrated with that, how to manage all the clusters. So we have also, like as I mentioned, the runbook that you will that will think about like something that you can use as a query uh, in terms of writing uh, your questions, your issues, and it will keep on detecting and provide this resolution for you without any manual task interventions. And we are very much excited. We are very satisfied with the customers' feedback so far.
That's excellent. Actually, you mentioned a lot of good points, and I will come back to you. One is KPI prediction and modeling, and if you can do it through an observability dashboard, that's extremely good because it's like a zero-touch environment where people can see how your application is performing, performance, latency, all those kind of, issues from an availability perspective. If your clusters are not behaving appropriately, if this is kind of, an observability end to end, if that can be provided, and if you we can leverage these kind of technologies to support the SREs, that would be great. Another important point which you mentioned, and I'll come back to that, is MCP servers, because that's a hot topic in the community. Maybe we'll touch base upon that as well. But for now, I think I'll go to Eduardo, because I think this is all good things, right? We are talking about all fancy things, but there is also a con to this, right? That what are the strategic gaps which we are seeing from a practitioner's point of view when we are onboarding these emerging technologies? Do you have recommendations, Eduardo, for us? And maybe we can also think about some practical challenges which is these emerging technologies are bringing to our CI/CD practitioners. You have
I
to
will
unmute.
start by identifying the gaps, or at least the cons that I observed so far. One of the main one is the lack of organizational or situation context. So most of the tasks that we try to, or the goals that we want to achieve, depends on very specific context of our organization, and that's where we take the most of the value, right? No, it's not. It's hard to achieve that kind of value when we are trying to build something or using something very generic. We don't achieve that level of value. That is one. So that's why I see that we are bringing AI to our organization, and we are teaching them how to basically sharing that context with the agents and models. Another challenge or con is the non-deterministic answers. One of the questions that I get from development teams is, okay, if I provide this input, I expect the same output every time I use the same input. And does the AI do that? And I have to say no, or depends on. We have not that answer depends more on data than on the input that people are providing to the model. Also, most recently, I started, because we are on this journey in the first steps of this journey, and we are very focused on what we can achieve with AI. And now we are thinking now on security and privacy, right? So if we provide access to data to agents so they can help us and assist us, so what kind of data they can or should have access, and to which people or users should have access to the answers that agents provide to them. That is that we try to answer this, but it's a big challenge, because together with the security team, we still have to manage access and privacy of data and so on, and we don't want that the agent starts to spread personal information. The last but not least, it's more the gap or a con is that we tend, or it's easier to use AI in creative tasks like build me a plan, or what is the best approach. It's where we, let's say, that is a very human task oriented, because we are the creative. And now with agents, we are shifting to the action stage. But first we need to go. So far we've been using AI for the wrong job, I guess. But agents now is solving a bit on that, because we want that agents do take actions and decisions instead of just creating plans. And I think this is the main ones. As recommendations, I think I will come back to the first place, is that take or bring the organization context to the AI. So I think that's where we need to, like, say, get the hanging fruit of the adding AI to our pipeline and process.
Excellent, Eduardo. I think I'll have to come back, and while you were talking, I was making notes because there were so many good points you mentioned, and it also reflects like it is not only the emerging technology is not at an experimental stage. We are starting to seriously look at like how these contributions can affect production environments, right? So
Mhm.
I'll come back to Mihir and then to Muktesh about you know you all have mentioned some very good points. Data foundation layer, for example. We also discussed about MCP server, and now we are seeing a lot of MCP application and tools marketplaces, right, which are coming up, and there is open source community who has been actively engaged in that. So which architectural components from emerging technology perspective can be added as new components, and which components would see a shift or an uplift from our CI/CD posture perspective, which the practitioners need to focus. So, Mihir, over to you, and then Muktesh.
Um, and I'm just thinking through this one a little more as we get into this situation where you have existing CI/CD pipelines or existing platforms that you've set up, and then you have this new set of tools and capabilities and platforms that are coming up, which gets integrated into your legacy kind of system, right? So I think a few considerations, and I kind of try to go back to the principles as such. So some of the core key design principles should be don't rip and replace, rather just see how you can extend and incrementally attach that layer into your ecosystem rather than just saying like, hey, this thing gets out and then the new thing comes in. There's like a lot of preserving of what the experience was needs to be there. The pipeline observer, like, basically is the developer who behind the scene is just wanting something to be done to make sure that the experience is optimal and is not changing. While these tools can enhance the experience, it should not degrade them. So that's rule number one for me. The other thing that I think of is like your CI/CD layer can sit on the top, but then you have this LLM RAG kind of layer that sits below it, but then you still need some sort of an observability layer, which is kind of an interface or a bridge between the two. Uh, Quote unquote MCP kind of helps you do that better. But this observability layer is kind of important where you have the APIs that interact between the systems up top and also provides the right layer of like abstraction to your LLM. So the LLM is not getting raw data; it's getting some sort of a filtered events or even like as a matter of fact, some logs that are synthesized a little more. That way, the LLMs can take a little more time to kind of come up to speed, get a little more insights into the ecosystem of how the operational cadences are and whatnot. And then after that, the agent should start functioning independently as a supplement rather than doing something in the system in a shadow mode as such is what I would say, where they log all the decisions, they cite sources, and then they have a reasoning trail to the actions that they are suggesting. Now, when we mature this ecosystem, at the end, you basically then come to a point where how do you invoke and execute control? Because the agent, if you give the keys to the kingdom with with pitfalls like hallucinations, I feel really scared that they might go and do something that they're not supposed to. And that's why like all LLM agent actions kind of need a gatekeeping through approvals of human intervention to start with. And then we can, once we mature, like, some of these can then start operating truly independently as a brain of their own. But still, these systems should not become system of records. Like the AI agent is not the system of record. It still has to go back to the GitHub repository, the pipeline definitions, the config store, the canonical model that you're following. That's the source of truth. The agent as such is merely suggesting and helping you supplement what users can get elevation from rather than being a complete replacement of like tech that you've built over the years, right? One last thing, and from the pitfall standpoint, the way I was thinking was um, like the mistrust and friction is something that keeps coming up along with hallucinations because LLMs are as good as the data that they have, and that's why this this very nuanced, very specific data needs to be fed into those models, which are organizationally relevant. I mean, I can take a model which is trained on some other organization, which is not necessarily mine, and then my systems would just go haywire if I just follow that. So I think the training part is obviously critical, but then the agents are always thought of as intrusive or unhelpful to start with, and we need to start taking action as them being in an assistive mode where human is still in the loop for review to start with, and then once you build trust, you can have a more automated function. Muktesh?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, context awareness to the agents, bringing the right data to agents, that's one of the biggest hot topics in the industry. As we evolve more and more, like, we need to have an agent, it's very important to have, like, how do we provide the right context to the agent? Now, Eduardo mentioned like there is people are using AI for creative workflows, but when you go from the production-based use cases where you already have some background or data, uh, like there, how do you make sure the agent has the access to the right data? Which Mihir talked about, like foundational aspect, like your agent is as good as it has the access to the data too. And then also like what are the ways where you can give the appropriate context or background to the agent to perform its job? Uh, now, we also talked about non-determinism of LLMs, as in like for the same set of input, you get different output. So that is where evals or evaluations becomes the most critical aspect. Like how do you test it out? How do you test whatever action it is taking, it is the right one or wrong one? So human in the loop becomes very important, like when you want to validate. Along with that, like you need to make sure your evals are solid in that sense. One of the things while like people make common mistake is while building these agents, lot of times we forget to do error analysis. So whenever your agent is performing a task, based on the feedback, that feedback loop, you need to categorize and make sure that becomes the part of the data flywheel. So your agent is continuously learning and improving upon. So error analysis is one of the most critical aspect, no matter what kind of evals you run, whether it's accuracy, similarity, or LLM as a judge, whatever you do, but you still need to categorize how you are like doing your error analysis and feeding it back in the loop. Mihir also talked about like I forgot the word, but I think it was something something like along the lines of the tracing, like tracing the flow. So you always need to have a visibility on like how your which path agent is taking. So that is again like you need to do the multi-turn simulation or those kind of evaluations in your agent. So that way you know which path agent is taking when it is trying to perform a task. But it all depends upon how good your data is, how you are providing the context. So that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, reasoning trail. That's what
Yes,
he
that's
was
correct.
mentioning. But I will come back to you in a while. But I also want to pick Edward or your brain because I think you mentioned quite a good like good like amount of information on how architects should start to think about this whole change or shift, right? And Muktesh and myself, we wrote a book last year on CI/CD design patterns. So Muktesh might be biased on this question, but I would go to Eduardo to see, like, do you think that any kind of reference architecture or baselining design patterns would be helpful for the community? Like, what can be the starting point for this architectural landscaping, right? I mean, everybody's doing everything, and when we come together, we hear the same challenges, right?
Yeah,
Everybody is facing.
yeah. So interesting. I was thinking on that question where Mihir was talking about the providing the right data, but it's the balance between providing the only needed right data and the only reference or reference model that I've been like over and over thinking about is like microservice. Now, if you think like microservice, so if I apply that principle to an agent, I want to a single responsibility on the agent. So I will try to control the scope of the agent. So as I love the phrase of delivering the keys of the kingdom to the agent. We want that. We need to assume that the agent will or can hallucinate and will do the wrong thing. So I want to contain the impact. So far, the best answer that I found so far is like, why can we apply the principles that we learn from microservice to AI agents? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think we can come back to this question in another panel about how we see the design pattern or the reference architecture work, which has already been done in the community. CDF has a reference architecture. Maybe we need to expand it with the AI context or AI native context. But now I think we are running out of time for this panel. Again, time is never enough for these kind of discussions. But I have a last question for all the panelists, and probably I would like to take 1 minute to describe your take on this question. What is your vision for the next biggest breakthrough of emerging technology when it is considered to be productified or getting into production? What can be the next biggest breakthrough? And I would start with Afzal this time, and then we can go around the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would say when it comes to an LLMs, AI agents, so I think I would say there should be able to map applications. I mean, I'm talking about like continuous delivery pipeline sort of thing. So in terms of that, it should map application changes to, infrastructure requirements and provisioning them. And I think AI agent that explain decisions should ask for approval only for when needed, should balance the policy from the customers. So these are my 2 cents for this.
That's great.
True.
We will give the last comment to Nikunj, but let's go over to Mihir and then Muktesh and Edward.
Yeah, so I think 1 minute is less, but I'll try to keep it very short and sweet. Um, I think for me, and I recently published a blog on like the intent-based engineering. I was thinking more on those lines as to how the future would be. And I know the future seems like it's more declarative and adaptive, but I think the agents can do more than just configuration or just writing YAMLs or something. It could be more of a collaborative tool where the developers can then start providing what they want and the agent handles how it's implemented with obviously the full explainability and auditability. So, like if I have to just say it in one sentence, I think my vision would be for CI/CD to become more of a conversational, not a configuration driven thing. Agents can then be trusted and we can evolve them eventually. They get the organizational context and they provide runtime feedback so that the users can get out of the complexity management of infrastructure and CI/CD as such.
Awesome. Muktesh.
I'll pass it to Yeah, go ahead, Muktesh.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with what Mihir said. So I think in future, not far from here, like this, all complexities are going to go away, and we will be leveraging AI as a system which reduces complexity, have access to different flows, and kind of solves that. Like one of the example I can give you right now, like when you think about observability landscape, there are plethora of tools and technologies people use, like for log matrix traces. Like you think about Kubernetes, so you have Prometheus, Cortex, you have Splunk, you have different systems. Not everyone is expert of everything. So where one of the things where we have actually exposed is like exposing a simple interface where developers or users can come directly and say, hey, this is what I need. And behind the scene, AI figures out what system it needs to talk to, how does it translate that query to which system. So not everyone has to be like expert of everything. So in future, the pipelines will be more in terms of conversational or more in terms of spec driven. When I say spec driven, where you tell the AI agent what needs to be done and it figures out and does the thing. So that's the future I see. Uh, Instead of like managing, going through 10 different configurations, doing all that. So yeah, that's what pretty much for me, like it will be more spec driven as we evolve and mature.
Eduardo?
I will combine the vision with Muktesh and me here. So I think regarding the complexity will not go away. Will be hidden on the I think that it will be a better user experience because we are closer to a human interaction. We just talk with someone, in this case an agent, but the complexity will still be there. So under the hood, we will still have to manage systems. And I agree again. So we will go from YAML to conversation, basically.
That's great. And Nikunj, we give you the last word. You have all the time in the world to talk about your vision and see how we can consolidate or converge it with the other practitioners, which we have already, seen and spoken about.
Of course, of course. Like I agree with all of you what you said. Like so I actually work for a small startup, and most of the time like we are always in the evaluating phase, like what will be the best systems. And like for us, like AI is like more of a research driven thing rather than like just the implementation ring at the moment. So like one point of time I always feel like if AI agents are help to us, like give us the right pathway. And like as Mihir said, like it should be like more conversational driven rather than like contextual driven. So I agree on the similar lines too. Like what we can actually help us provide like to the developers or like the even engineers is like rather than like they want to fix all the time like in debugging, if we have any kind of AI agents who could help them with like all those debugging and other complexities related to all those similar issues, that would be helpful for like not just only the developers or the engineers, but to entire ecosystem players as well. So that is what like I think like if we have AI agents or like all those contextual things in the future or in the upcoming years, then it would be helpful like for people who are like involved in this development and deployment.
Excellent. And now we come to the end of this panel discussion. Of course, as I said, time is never enough for such discussions. We might like to come back to the topic of MCP servers, for example, and how they play around in this ecosystem. But for now, I would like to thank all my panelists for their time and taking out this time to guide the community and pave the next steps for the CI/CD practitioners. That's great. Thank you very much. And stay tuned for our next panel discussion. Thank you.